Hi there, I am James Kotecki. This is the C-Space Influencer Studio here at CES 2019, and we are here with Gansca, the CEO of Knotch. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you for having me here.
So let's start with the definition. How do you define Knotch to somebody that you just run into here at CES?
So I usually say that given the really massive influx of money in the realm of content, there's a growing need to measure it and help optimize it. And so we do that. We are the platform for content intelligence. And we work with brands and only with brands to help them understand how their content is doing across all their digital platforms, whether they sit on paid partners or on their owned and operated channels.
So when you say content, that means everything I think about as far as content, video,
That's a great question,
writing, audio?
actually. Yeah, so the way we define content is literally anything other than a display ad.
Okay, so that is almost everything that a creative brand might be putting out there.
Yeah, you know, there's a lot of money that's being placed, including in social, that I would call banner, and it is used to basically drive traffic to content. So in a way, that spend is part of content as well, and it's what we're trying to optimize.
I was checking out your site, and one of the things you talk about is transparent real-time measurement. Transparent real-time measurement has been a goal of marketers for so long. Ever since we had the idea of the fact that we can advertise online and measure people digitally, that has been kind of the goal. It seems like everybody's still talking about that. So where are we actually right now? What are we capable of doing? And maybe more importantly, what are we still not capable of doing?
Yeah, one of the big things that we're talking in our session tomorrow with Keith Weed and Michelle Paluzzo is really trust and transparency, and how close are we really from a technology standpoint to achieving it. And you know, I think one of the big insights that we'll share and I'll share with you today is that technology is only half of the equation. I think there's plenty of companies, including Knotch, that have the technology to collect data. You know, we do it better, faster, stronger, we add more data, et cetera. Everyone has their own twist to it. But at the end of the day, what I really think separates different data companies is who they put that technology in the hands of, and who does that data that they collect in real time get to. So I would say the sad reality of the industry is that oftentimes the incentive structures behind how data reporting happens, aka it happens at the level of the distribution channel, actually prevents the transparent, trusted data from getting to the ultimate decision maker, which is the brand, in real time. So it's actually more of a reality of the humans and the incentive structures rather than a reality of the technology that's limited that has led us to a place where trust is a really hard currency to earn in the industry.
So that's a difficult problem to solve because, you know, being a technologist, you maybe would want to solve that problem with technology, and you're saying that it's challenging and maybe you can't do it with technology. So what are you able to do other than share the insights? How do you actually push that forward?
Totally. You know, we moved the company from Silicon Valley to New York because we actually had this moment of acknowledgement that technology wasn't enough and that we needed to actually get closer to the industry to truly understand how to navigate the go-to-market strategy. So the way we thought about it is to create a radically different business model from other data companies. Currently, data companies make money from kind of two entities or two ways. First is to make money from the distribution channels, which could be the New York Times, it could be Facebook, et cetera. And the data that is then collected belongs to the distribution channel. And at some point, 3 to 6 months later, usually gets reported to the brand. So imagine running a 3 to 4 week campaign, you find out 3 to 6 months later it didn't work or it did work, right? So that's one model. And the majority of the data companies have that model. The other model is you're more of a data platform. So you collect the data and then you sell it to everyone who wants to pay you for it. In neither of these instances, the brand actually ends up winning because the brand doesn't end up having a more direct relationship with their audience. So what we did is we said, we're going to be a data collection platform, but on behalf of the brand. So we're only going to monetize from brands, and as such, we're going to be economically incentivized to defend the truth and bring them the truth in real time. And so hopefully because of that, even though it's a radical business model, which basically means we're not going to make money from 3/3 of the industry, it actually aligns us with what I think is a better outcome for everyone.
Can you give me any examples of how brands have been able to achieve better results with what you're talking about?
Yeah, I mean, a big part of our go-to-market strategy is that we're not beholden to creating positive results for anyone in the reporting ecosystem. So for example, we've had 3 or 4 massive brands that have discovered bot traffic across some of their campaigns. None of that would have come up definitely not in real time if the reporting would have been left to the distribution channels. That's a really simple example, but there's a lot of others, including the ability to compare in real time between one channel against another, which you wouldn't normally be able to do if they get to report back on their own timeline and in their own way.
There was a kind of a bombshell article a couple of weeks ago, I think it was in New York Magazine, about how a lot of what goes on the internet is actually potentially fake between bots and different reporting things. And so it sounds like maybe, I don't know if you saw that article, but it sounds like that has a lot of resonance with what you're doing and the vanguard that you're pushing forward.
Totally, yeah. I think trust is, as I mentioned, a very hard currency to earn in today's market. And we hopefully are doing that by not just asking people to trust us blindly, but by actually economically aligning ourselves with the brand.
There is something else that you guys do is help companies understand what their competitors are doing online. So tell me about what kind of insights you are able to generate there, and then once I know what my competitor is doing online, what should I do with that? Should I just copy exactly what they're doing, or should I do something completely different? What do you do with those insights?
So kind of moving along the idea of transparency and bringing back transparent data in real time to brands, we essentially move from just being a measurement company to actually providing transparency across not just competitors, but the entire ecosystem of content. So it's actually less about being able to just see what your competitors are doing, and it's more about being able to see what anyone is doing. Maybe you're interested in being closer to Nike if you're a financial brand versus being closer to other financial brands. So we're really just empowering you to monitor and maybe use this data to say, hey boss, hey CFO, hey CEO, we need to increase our content budget because the brands we're trying to emulate are investing 10 times more in content or are creating 10 times more content, et cetera, et cetera. Or it is to say, actually, the distribution channels that I work with are working with every single one of my competitors. If I want to differentiate, maybe I have to put investments in other places. So there's a bunch of different use cases for it, but we're a technology platform, so we really just put it in our clients' hands and then they take it from there.
You started this business, correct?
Yes.
And I know that you advise other startups.
Yes.
So there's a lot of startups here at CES. What is a common mistake that you see young startup founders making?
It's interesting being at CES and just seeing how everyone's so excited about new technologies. I think one of the biggest mistakes that founders often do is they try to chase the shiny thing of the moment. So whether that's chatbots, I think that was the shiny thing a couple of years ago, blockchain, AI. At the end of the day, technology and innovation is only as relevant as it is to your customers. So I would say stay focused on what your value prop is and don't get distracted by the noise.
That's a good one. I also found in my research that you were born in Transylvania and born and raised. Does coming from outside the United States and building a business here give you a unique perspective on the industry you're building your business?
I don't know if a unique perspective, but it definitely creates both a higher barrier to entry, and I think it gives me an unfair advantage in many ways. So it's, maybe it nets out to be the same. I would say it's hard to connect culturally with a completely different realm of people who grew up in a very different culture. So bridging that gap was definitely a big exercise for me, regardless of whether I was talking to investors or customers. But at the same time, being from a different place helps you approach people with a much more open mind without any prejudice or judgment. And I think it gives you the idea that, you have no safety net here, so you have to hustle. Otherwise, you won't achieve your dream. So I'm known to be a very elegant hustler because I never stop until I achieve what I want.
I like that. Have you considered making the Elegant Hustler your official nickname?
No, not yet.
Okay.
Maybe that'll be my first book.
Maybe this is, okay, great. Okay, we're going to have you back on the show and hold you to that.
Right.
So we talked about what's possible now. We talked about how you're differentiating. What are you most excited about for 2019 as we look to the future?
Oh, I think there's a really interesting turning point in 2019 on a lot of fronts. But I think this notion of trust, which is really what we're talking about tomorrow, is going to be one of the breaking points for technology. I think we're going to hear about technology companies embracing that they have a responsibility towards society in some way, shape, or form, whether it is to say we're now a media company and we're going to be moderated, or it is to say, we're a self-driving company, or we're a ride-sharing company and we have a duty towards the people that we employ. I think we're going to see a lot more ethics and moderation happening in the technology world. And even though I'm a kind of a purist techie, I am excited to see how we can start really combining human and technology, because I think we've kind of unfairly placed too many bets on the technology.
It is interesting. Trust is an emerging theme here already after just done even a few interviews today, this morning in the C-Space Influencer Studio. So it's good to hear you talking about that. And it was great to have you here. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
Anda Gansca is the CEO of Knotch, and you have been watching the C-Space Influencer Studio, and you should keep watching. I'm James Kotecki, hosting more great conversations just ahead.